Look up on a clear night, not through a window, outside, with the full weight of the dark above you. The Milky Way stretches across the sky in a faint, ancient river of light. Hundreds of billions of stars, each one a sun, many of them circled by worlds we are only beginning to see. Beyond our galaxy, another 2 trillion galaxies recede toward a horizon we will never reach. And somewhere in all of that silence, I believe the most extraordinary thing in the known universe happened. Not the birth of a star, not a supernova, not a black hole collision. A creature became aware of itself. And then, and this is the part that still fills me with something I can only call awe, that creature looked up at the same sky I'm describing and began to ask questions about it. That is what we are exploring today. Not just intelligence, but the long, improbable, energy-hungry road that leads to it. Hello, I'm Terry Adair, author of Where Are the Little Green Men?, The Adair Hypothesis, and Earth, the Goldilocks Planet. And welcome to the Fusion Star Project Studio. For most of Earth's history, there was no intelligence. Let that land for a moment. Life existed for billions of years as single-celled organisms, microscopic, silent, marvelous in their own way, but utterly unaware. Then multicellular organisms, and plants, fungi, animals, an entire living world, endlessly complex, endlessly dynamic, and not one creature in any of it wondered why. Life flourished long before anything remotely resembling human thought appeared. And that tells us something important. Something the universe seems almost to be whispering to anyone willing to listen. Intelligence is not inevitable. If it were the natural destination of evolution, Earth should be crowded with technological species. We should have company, but we look around and we find only ourselves. The sole species that has built cities, written poetry, split the atom, and launched machines into the dark between the stars. Only us. That alone suggests something remarkable. That the path to intelligence is not a highway. It may be closer to a rugged mountain trail that most life never finds, and even fewer survive to the summit. But what is intelligence exactly? It's not a single thing. It appears in layers, like the geology of a canyon, each stratum built upon the one beneath it, each one taking unimaginable time to form. The deepest layer is simply awareness, the ability to sense and respond. A bacterium moving toward nutrients has a kind of awareness. No thought, no reflection, just chemical response. It is the faintest flicker of a signal that will, over billions of years, become something extraordinary. Then comes perception, the construction of an internal model of the world. Fish have it, birds have it, mammals have it. They are not merely reacting to the universe, they are interpreting it, building a small, imperfect map of reality inside themselves. Then consciousness, perhaps the deepest mystery in all of science, the subjective experience of existence, the feeling of being. Dogs possess something of it. Dolphins, elephants, chimpanzees. These are not empty machines. There is something it is like to be them. And then, rarer still, self-awareness. The famous mirror test hints at it. Chimpanzees, bonobos, dolphins, elephants. A handful of species seem to recognize themselves. Not another animal, themselves. A threshold so profound that most of the animal kingdom has never crossed it. But humans crossed it, yet another boundary beyond even that. We became aware that we are aware. We contemplate ourselves from the outside. We model the future. We revisit the past. We build not only maps of the world, but maps of ourselves within the world. And from that strange, recursive loop emerge the most consequential abilities life has ever produced. Communication, culture, technology, civilization. Language deserves its own moment of wonder here. Many species communicate, whales, bees, wolves. birds with songs of astonishing complexity. But human language did something no other communication system in the history of life has done. It made knowledge immortal. Before language, before writing, before story, before the spoken accumulation of experience passed from parent to child, knowledge died with every individual, a lifetime of learning gone, the hard-won lessons of a generation erased. Language broke that cycle. A child born today inherits thousands of years of accumulated insight. Mathematics developed across centuries is handed to a 10-year-old. The medical wisdom of 100 generations is present in a single clinic. The astronomical discoveries of Copernicus and Kepler and Einstein arrive in a classroom. This may be the single greatest force multiplier that evolution has ever produced. And then there's curiosity, the desire to acquire information for no immediate survival benefit. A child asks why, is told, ask why again and again, in that maddening and magnificent spiral of inquiry that every parent knows. That same impulse, restless, relentless, fundamentally unnecessary for day-to-day survival, is what built the telescope, the particle accelerator, the radio dish pointed at a silent sky. Curiosity is information-seeking behavior, and information is survivor. The more accurately an organism understands its environment, the greater its chances of navigating it. What begins as simple learning eventually becomes science. But there's one layer deeper still: wonder. Awe is the emotional response to encountering something vast, something beyond our immediate comprehension. A mountain range, a star-filled sky, the Grand Canyon seen for the first time. That feeling of scale, of smallness, of being momentarily overwhelmed by the size of things. Wonder is awe combined with curiosity. It doesn't just feel the vastness, it asks about it. What is this? How does it work? Why is it here? Wonder may be among the most powerful forces ever produced by evolution. Because exploration, real exploration, the kind that changes civilizations, is what happens when wonder takes action. But here's where I want to slow down. Because intelligence does not come free. The human brain represents roughly 2% of body weight, but it consumes approximately 20% of the body's total energy at rest, just to exist, just to maintain the electrical gradients, the chemical balances, this ceaseless processing that underlies single conscious moment. Evolution does not make investments like that casually. In my book, in my book, Earth, the Goldilocks Planet, I argue that intelligence is not merely a biological phenomenon. It is fundamentally an energetic one. A biosphere must first acquire enough surplus energy to support large, metabolically expensive brains. Then it must sustain those brains, not for a generation, but across evolutionary time, across ecological change, across whatever the planet throws at the creature trying to survive on it. This is what I call the energy ladder, and intelligence is not the first rung. It is somewhere near the top, built upon billions of years of prior energetic achievement. Photosynthesis had to appear, oxygen had to accumulate, complex cells had to form, multicellular life had to diversify. Ecosystems had to generate enough surplus that some species could afford energetically to grow enormous brains and sustain them. Most living worlds, I suspect, never make it that far. Which brings me to the dolphin. Dolphins are intelligent, genuinely, measurably, impressively intelligent. They communicate. They recognize themselves in mirrors. They solve problems. They play. There is something in a dolphin's eye. Anyone who has spent time near them knows it, that suggests a mind. But dolphins don't want to go to the moon. Not because they lack intelligence, but because intelligence on its own is not enough. Technology requires manipulation, hands capable of grasping, building, assembling. It requires control of fire, that first external energy technology that changed everything for our ancestors. It requires the accumulation of knowledge across generations in a form that can be built upon. And it requires long-term energy surplus. That's the margin above survival that allows some individuals to specialize, to experiment, to do things that don't feed anyone immediately, but eventually change everything. Dolphins are intelligent, but the ocean, however rich, does not provide the scaffolding for civilization. This is the thread that runs through everything I write. The Drake equation, that elegant framework Frank Drake put on a chalkboard in 1961, gives us a way to estimate how many civilizations might exist in the galaxy. But it asks primarily about emergence. How often does life begin? How often does intelligence arise? What it does not fully capture is persistence. What must happen for intelligence to endure, to accumulate complexity, to become technological, and to remain so long enough to be detected? In Earth, the Goldilocks Planet, I propose what I call the Adair extension, a second filter layered onto Drake's framework. The idea is straightforward. Even if intelligence arises with some regularity, only a fraction of those intelligent species will exist on worlds where the full energetic infrastructure for civilization is available. The stored ancient sunlight, the accessible chemistry, the planetary stability, the geologic fortune required to power a technological society. That fraction, F of energy, may be very small. And when you multiply it across Drake's already uncertain numbers, the silence of the sky begins to make a different kind of sense. The universe may contain countless living worlds, worlds with chemistry, with oceans, with single-celled life, cycling endlessly in warm, dark seas, perhaps even worlds with creatures that are perceptive, aware, conscious, gazing at their own star with something like wonder. But worlds capable of producing creatures that ask questions about the universe itself, that write the questions down, pass them forward, build instruments to seek answers, and reach toward other stars. That may be something far rarer. And if that is true, then what happened here, on this water-covered rock, orbiting an unremarkable star, in an outer arm of an ordinary galaxy, may be one of the most extraordinary events in the 4 billion year history of a cosmos that has been running experiments in complexity since the beginning of time. We are not an accident, but we may be very nearly a miracle. I'm Terry Adair. This has been another exploration of the Adair Hypothesis and the ideas at the heart of my books. Where Are the Little Green Men? And Earth, the Goldilocks Planet. If these ideas move something in you, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Tell me what you wonder about. Tell me what keeps you looking up. Because the questions are the point. They always have been.